Hello, good afternoon. You're welcome to She Talk with me, Hadiza Patrick Otter. I'd like to thank you for joining me for today's show. This is a DNA show, my favorite show, I usually say, because this is a show where help is gotten or provided to everyone who needs it and needs to hear about it. So if you know someone who needs to listen to this show, please do send them a link, like, share, so someone can get their help. And this is brought to you by Biosciences Limited. They are the people who've got it going. If you are talking DNA investigation, you're talking about diagnostics, they are the number one persons or people for that. That's the company to go to because you're sure to get all the help that you need. Okay, so today I have with me a guest, and he is Akande Afiz. You're welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much, man.
Well done. Okay, so in Nigeria, we just started hearing about DNA investigations, especially as it concerns criminal justice. Before we heard it when the elites had their fights, when they are fighting over who has a child, who doesn't have a child. Then we get to hear about DNA, and then it takes about 6 months or more to get the result out and all whatnot. But now we have with us and usually it was sent out of the country to be handled. But now we have the DNA companies handling it here in Nigeria, especially yours that is a pioneer one here in our country. In criminal justice, they ask for witnesses, eyewitnesses. They ask you to bring one or two persons to bear witness or CCTV and the rest of it. But we're moving past that. Looking at the cases we've seen coming out of America, especially this year, at least I'm aware about 3 cases where people were exonerated after 30 years imprisonment for crimes they had not committed. Do you see Nigeria, we are going to have that kind of thing happening in the future where DNA investigations will prove someone is innocent or guilty of a crime?
I think that is something that is definitely going to happen in Nigeria
Okay.
as we move on with the process,
Mhm.
because Nigeria is a country that, to be realistic, we are far behind when it comes to science and technology. We're just trying to make up with the standard, but the good thing is we are improving as the year goes,
Yeah.
as the year goes on. And one thing concerning this DNA of a thing that people need to understand is that DNA it's something that has come to stay and to overtake many processes in criminal justice, because
Okay.
in DNA this is something that doesn't lie. It's what you have within your system. It's either yours or it's not
Mm.
yours. So
Yes.
if you are to relate that to expert witness, you will see that with expert witness, eyes witness, there are limitations, there are
Mm.
challenges attributed to um, uh, eyes witness. You understand?
Yes.
Some people, when they have a case, they'll tell you, I see Mr. A, Mr. B. But once
Mm.
it involves the police, they tend
They
to
change your
change.
story.
You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So, but with DNA, it's not like that.
Mm.
I assure you, I'm communicating, right? With
Yes.
DNA, it's not like that. Once,
Hmm.
because there is something in DNA that we call lookout principle.
Yeah.
If you are at a scene, you have the high likelihood that you will drop uh, part of your biological material. And
Hmm.
whoever the investigator that is visiting the scene for processing,
Yes.
if expert enough, will be able to pick the biological material, which can be used to place the perpetrator or the suspect
Mm.
at the scene.
Okay. So, for instance, if there was an armed robbery in my house and
Okay.
I wasn't sure if it was my security guard, people in my house, I'm not certain. Is it possible to get a DNA expert to come in and pick up materials that probably follicles, hair follicles, skin? What we don't know is that we shed our skin. Am I right?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Sure, you're
We
correct.
may not see, but we do shed our skin. Is it possible that someone investigate, if I were to bring someone in, they would be able to find out if certain persons were in that. Is it possible?
Yeah, definitely, it's very possible. You know what actually happened is, people watch CSI and other
Oh, I
several
do.
criminal,
That's my favorite thing to watch. NCIS, CSI.
but trust me, it's not that easy when you go to the field,
Yes.
because it's forensic is a skill. After you've learned the basics, you have to develop your own skills, of investigating crime scene. I don't know whether so from the example you just cited now, let's say you're suspecting your security guard to be involved in a robbery that occurred in your apartment. Good. Like I said earlier, there's local principle. Definitely, if your security entered the house when the incident happened, he would definitely will have dropped a biological material. It could be
Okay.
skin, it could be hair follicle, it might be injured, it might be print. Okay, let me set
Yes.
an example for you. There was a crime scene I visited. It was a burglary case,
Mm.
and when we got to the case, there was no blood, there was no hair follicle,
Wow.
but there were a lot of prints. There were a lot of prints, and in DNA, there's something we called latent DNA, or you
Okay.
call them trace DNA. I don't
Mm.
know whether you understand. They are very
Yeah.
minute, like very small. Do you get my point?
Yes.
They are very small compared to when you have body tissue, when you have blood and the likes. So when we
Mm.
got there, there was no blood, there was no hair follicle. All we had was prints.
Yes.
Then we analyzed, we were able to pick up the good prints for comparison, and also we collected these prints using our technique of sample collection.
Yeah.
When we collected these prints, then we took it to the lab for
Mm.
analysis. So after analysis, we were able to generate a full profile. So what we
Mm.
call a profile is a certain repeat in specific region on our
Okay.
DNA. You understand?
Yes.
So we're able to generate it and collected sample from all workers in the building,
Yes.
and they were all exonerated.
Wow.
So definitely they might know about it, but they were not the one that carried out the burglary.
Yes.
So if not because of DNA, some of them will have been rotting in cell jail, claiming that
True.
they were the ones securing the garden, they know about it. So DNA solved them, were able to rescue them in that scenario.
Wow. Let's use the example of the rape case of the girl in Benin City during the lockdown, where it was assumed, people say it was the pastor who called her, it was this person, it was that person. Eventually, it was found out that it was some people around the area. At that point, the church had been burnt down, the pastor had been chased out. We just use assumption, the fact that she goes to read there must be the pastor who perpetuated it. In a case where you are called to investigate such a thing, how would you be able to pick up? Is an open space, is a church, of course, but it has windows. Four guys came in there. How would you be able to investigate or pick out um, evidence of the fact that these persons were in that area? How would you collect your samples? That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so the first thing is one of the most difficult crime scene to investigate is an
Mm,
open scene,
yeah.
because with it tends to the DNA tends to degrade over time with it.
Yes. Yes.
So in such scenario, you might want to use the lady
Mm,
as the major evidence,
okay.
depending on when the case was reported.
Okay.
So that's why something we're trying to do in Nigeria is sensitization. Let
Mm,
people know what to do when things happen. Don't feel
mm,
inferior, like this is what people will talk about me. Be
yes.
bold, be free to explain. That's when the officials were able to assist to get justice.
That's true.
Because a lot of people out there are going through trauma because they didn't get the required help.
Or
So
justice.
if I'm investigating such a case, I will, if the case was reported as at when due, I'll
Yes.
advise the victim to visit the nearest hospital.
Yeah.
There are nurses that are trained on how to collect DNA sample. If
Okay.
there was penetration, that is a very good spot to collect the sample.
Okay.
If there were ejaculation during the rape, that is
Mm.
a very good evidence for analysis.
Okay.
So I would request the victim visit the primary health center for sample collection,
Yeah.
then submit the sample to the center for analysis. Then
Okay.
either the pastor or any suspect, we will collect their DNA and compare the foreign DNA that might be extracted from the lady to all the
Mm.
suspects to see if, because obviously if there's penetration, there will be a skin shield,
True.
and you tend to get DNA like, and in that case, it will be a mixture of the victim DNA and the suspect DNA. Then once we have
Okay.
the DNA from the suspect, we can exclude the victim and extract out the perpetrator's DNA and compare it to all our suspects. We've done that many times and it has worked for us.
Okay. There's a question I've always wanted to ask, but every time I forget. Can DNA be sample be obtained from eyelashes? Like if I came somewhere and my eyelash drops and someone picks it, I want to determine if I was there. Is it possible?
So when you say eyelashes, like those synthetic eyelashes, right?
No, 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 no. My
They are
natural
still,
eyelashes. Yes.
yeah, definitely. You see, when you have ear, when you have your ear sample, there's
Yes.
something we target, which is the root. If you have your root attached to the eyelashes, you can get a DNA. If
Okay.
not, without the root, you can still get a DNA because we have types of DNA. We have the nuclear DNA and the mitochondrial DNA.
Mm,
So in the ear, you can get the mitochondrial DNA,
mm.
but from the root, you can get the nuclear DNA. So if it is without the root, you can still get your DNA.
Okay. So, in case of rape, probably washed clothes and all that, person have taken their bath. There's still no chances of the. Is there any way that some sort of DNA leftovers can be found in that person's system? Anyway, because there are times that people just want to go and clean up themselves because they want to forget this has happened before they think, oh, I need to have gone to obtain or to be convinced. For instance, they may do it and then want to talk to a counselor then, and then we'll be like, when, how long? Probably a day or two, but is there still any way, any sort of sample can still be obtained?
Sorry, I think I lost you for a while. Your network was not
Okay.
that
I
good.
said, is it
So can you
possible?
repeat the question?
Is it possible that after a woman had had her bath after rape and probably washed her clothes, is there any way still that they probably spoke to someone very late or spoke about it later? Is there still any way DNA can still be obtained from that person to ascertain if that event had happened?
Okay, good. Yes, that's still very, very much possible.
Okay.
When there's a rape, there's something I personally like to do because I
Mm.
know when there's a rape, there's usually struggle.
Yes.
So when there is struggle, if the victim is smart enough to probably
Mm.
have scratched the perpetrator, uh,
Yes.
we can get DNA from the victim's nails, fingernails. So
Okay.
that is part of the evidence we collect. I know when you most people, they have their fingernails long and thereabout. And when you bow, most people, it doesn't go away easily like that.
Yes.
So there's still potential of getting DNA sample from nails, fingernails. That's one. Two, from the clothing. The clothing, number one, it depends on the type of the fabric.
Yes.
Some fabric are cotton, some fabric are nylon. If there is, let's say, a cement drop on the nylon, for instance, now, it might not go through the fabric. It might just stay on the surface. Once washed, it might go off entirely. But with the cotton, it might be able to have its way through the cotton and have some within the cotton, even after wash, depending on the degree of washing. So there is no one way to solve a particular crime investigation. You look at it thoroughly and look for all possible, opportunity you can take to have a good result from that case.
Okay.
So from the question, it's a yes. After washing and baking,
I'm honestly glad to know that it is possible, because someone had asked me, she told me of a case where this young lady lived with this family and the man would come and rape the girl with a condom and continually denied it and so on. And I said, maybe fingernails, and you just mentioned it, if they were smart enough for the girl to scratch him, they would be able to get that sorted out. So in a case where you know that this person would try to get away with it, it's better for you to scratch the person so that at least there's DNA, you've taken something away with you. Okay, so in the case where someone dies with a fetus and there's a need to prove paternity of the fetus in a case of rape or paternity case, can samples still be retrieved in that case? We've had cases where a man, instead of just denying the pregnancy and going, he kills the girl and denies that it's his child. And we all just speculate and just wait for heavens to answer. We pray all kinds of prayers and never really gets answered, because why? Science is provided. I believe that God, when he thought of heaven and earth, he thought of science, because he knew that we're going to have unbelievers. So he chose to bring science.
Exactly.
I believe so strongly. I believe in science.
Sure, definitely. That's the belief. Yes.
It's God's way of showing unbelievers an evidence of what he can do to solve problems. So,
Exactly.
do you think that it's possible still to be able to get DNA sample of whoever may be the father, or in case where, especially where someone denies that pregnancy and the woman is dead, to prove her case and the fetus also is within her? Is it still possible?
Okay, if I get the question very well, you have a pregnant woman died, but the alleged father denies the pregnancy.
Yes.
That is very possible, because even whilst the woman is alive, you can get the fetus DNA.
Okay.
Hello, are you with me?
Yes.
Either alive or dead, you can always get the fetus DNA, because there is this thing that happens. Some people, they knows. Let me take you to this side. Some people, they know their AS, and they know there's potential of having, SS, right? So whenever they have pregnancy, they want to know if the child there is SS. So they're going to collect sample from the fetus. So if you can do that to the living, you can do it to the dead.
Yes, that's true.
So it's very much possible.
Oh, so you see, a lot of unsolved cases have gone like that, and we've not found any solution to it at any point in time. To that effect.
It's sensitization. Many people does not have the information, so they don't know.
Yes. Okay, so how can the Nigerian criminal justice system be better helped reduce wrongful incarcerations or cold cases with the use of DNA investigation?
Sorry, say that again. How can Nigeria what?
The Nigerian criminal justice system, that's the Nigerian police, the attorney generals, state attorney generals. How can the system be helped to reduce wrongful incarcerations? For instance, a person being accused of rape or killing or robbery, like you gave that instance. How can that wrongful incarcerations or cold cases where the person denies it and then that's all, we just stay to pray about it or whatever it is, or false accusation or witchcraft, with the use of DNA investigation, how can the criminal system be helped? Because if you go to any prison anywhere in Nigeria, you hear, I was wrongfully accused, I was wrongfully accused. How can we try and how can, well, not we, how can the criminal justice use more DNA investigations to help?
Okay, so that from my angle is that the system should incorporate a forensic analysis before any justice, before any
Okay.
judgment, sorry.
Yeah.
Because in court, I believe the judge will weigh different evidences before the judgment, which I think, and I know forensic, put aside DNA or other, because there are different types of forensic, for
Yes.
involving forensic in the judgment. Because although all evidence might have their limitation and some evidence might be compromised, which
Yes.
is something we can only manage. But with DNA, it's something that has to be incorporated into the judgment system, which I think some part of Nigerian is already doing. Like some states, I can say categorically, the Lagos state system,
Uh,
the
don't even mention Lagos. Lagos is light years ahead of every state when it comes to criminal justice. Oh, please. Whenever I think
exactly
of Lagos, I think it's half New York and half Nigerian. So please don't mention Lagos State. They are way ahead when it comes to stuff like that.
exactly. So my advice is just for other states to follow the
Yes.
lead,
Yes.
incorporate that, because although it might be expensive, because
Yeah.
trust me or not, it's forensic requires the government intervention for it to be affordable for the citizen to have,
That's true.
justice.
Yes.
So it's needed of the government to invest, in forensic, so we can have more, not just um um not just first accusation, but also a fast resolution to cases. Because if you ask me, if you go to court, some cases take years,
Yes.
but with
That's true.
DNA, with months, you can
Mm.
actually have your conclusion to the
Yes.
case. So
Okay.
investing in DNA is a very good approach to this.
Okay. There was something you said earlier on when you were talking about the case where you were called in to check some samples after a robbery had happened at a residence. Okay, so I know I'm taking you back, but I want you to explain to me, how can my fingerprint or the fact that I handled something with my hands, how can my DNA be extracted from that? I mean, it sounds like
You know,
NCIS and CIS all together, but how? When you said, I was like, okay, so those ones like they just do the thumbprint, but this one, how? We don't have our thumbprints in a collective place. Well, we're beginning to have that with the NIM and BVN. Our thumbprints are being collated now. We have more people in the system that you can use their thumbprint to identify them. That's what most people don't know
mhm,
about BVN and NIM. That is what actually is that eventually, if you commit a crime, you can go to that database and get your thumbprint. So be careful where you touch. But then, how can
exactly.
you, who doesn't have access to BVN database and NIM, get an evidence from there?
Okay, sorry, say that last statement again.
I say, how can you, who doesn't have access to BVN database and NIM database, I don't think it's opened yet to private companies, how can you get uh, evidence of the fact that, or somebody's DNA or print, how can you obtain that?
You see, what actually happened is one of the challenges you're facing in this country
Mm,
is the
mm,
case of database.
okay.
You see, it's something that has to be consistent.
Yes.
Fingerprint database, DNA database.
Yes.
Like the case I was talking about, that case is still hanging. It might be 30 years.
Yes.
The person will get a judgment. Like, you'll just be like, the crime you think you've forgotten about. That's why you
Mm.
see in the US, they'll tell you after certain number of years, we found so person. You get,
Yes.
because the person doesn't know. It's hanging there.
Mm-hmm.
So what actually happened is, it's good in a scenario where you
Mm.
have suspects.
Yes.
If you don't have suspects, it might be challenging due to lack of database.
Everything. Yes, that's true.
Yes, it's going to be challenging, but if there is suspect, it's good. And at the same time, it's going to exonerate a lot of people you're thinking probably they committed the crime.
Mm.
And for fingerprints, what happened is, we have fingerprint analysis, then
Mm.
we have DNA. You can get DNA for fingerprints. Which
Okay.
fingerprint is good for DNA? Which fingerprint is good for fingerprint analysis?
Okay.
Huh? These things relies on some things, like, for instance, where did you deposit the print, the nature of the surface,
Okay.
the pressure applied while depositing it.
Okay.
Like the one I was talking about, imagine if you have a burglary, someone tried to force open a door, there's definitely going
Mm-hmm.
to be a lot of pressure. The more
Yes.
the pressure you apply, the more the
Um,
DNA you are depositing,
wow. Okay.
depending on the nature of the surface. If it's a
Okay.
rough surface, trust me, it's perfect for DNA analysis. If it's a
Mm.
smooth surface, it's perfect for fingerprint analysis. So
Okay.
those are the things we look out for when we go to crime scene for investigations.
Okay. This leads me to the last question. Do you, when I watch CSI and the rest of the crime shows, the people in the lab always seem to have the fun, the most fun. How much fun do you have as a DNA analyst and an investigator? That's what I'll call you. How much fun do you have doing that kind of work, looking at samples and being able to identify who, what, where, the connection? How much fun is that doing that kind of work?
The interesting part of forensic is that you are not working on the same case.
Yes.
Every day you are working on different case with different scenario, which will require a deep thinking from you on how to go about the case.
Yes.
So the fun part of it is, you want to see how your skill can bring an end to this case.
Mm.
The
Yes.
eagerness to get a good result from analysis,
Mm.
like, oh wow, it's actually the suspect that committed it. Oh, force
Mm.
him, for him is not the one that committed the crime. Although at the DNA level, you can't say categorically that is the one or is not the one.
Mm.
You leave that to the judge, but based on your analysis, you're like, okay, I have quite a number of evidence to say it's actually this guy, but you
Mm.
are not in the position to say he committed the crime. That is why
Mm.
DNA is based on statistics, probability. And when you
Yeah.
have probability and you're getting 99.99999%,
Mm.
and definitely you're telling me that's like 100.
Mm.
Or you're saying, okay, there's a chance of just one person out of 1 quadrillion having this kind of profile we found at this place. You
Yes.
are indirectly saying is the person.
True.
Hello,
So
are you with me? But
that must really
you are
fun for
not in
you
the
to be able to do
position.
that. Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. So that is it. Trust me, forensic is very, very interesting because you are handling different cases like
Mm.
burglary, homicide, rape, theft, victim identification, different cases. You're using different technique at different time. It never gets boring. It never gets
Yes.
boring. Yeah, it's not like you're doing the same thing. What I'm doing today is what I'm doing tomorrow. No, 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 no. It's not like that with forensic. Like you are always on your toe until you are at the end of the case.
That's true. That's so true.
Yes.
I really thank you, Afis, for coming on the show. Thank you for making it very interesting and enlightening. Benjamin Courage Waterflow said, DNA, yes, this is a DNA show, is brought to you by TSI Biosciences Limited. They are the foremost and #1 DNA investigators in Nigeria. And I assure you their prices are worth it. Do you know you can do a DNA investigation, which is 150,000 naira? It used to be like 2 million naira, and you had to fly it out of country and all that. In fact, is what is just with 150,000 naira. Not only does TSI Biosciences do DNA investigations, they also do all kinds of analysis and prognosis. They help you to check your samples for whatever it is that you're looking for, and you are assured they're getting 100% work done. This is a company that was begun in the USA and brought in here. I've met their chairman, and this man of integrity. Your samples will never be compromised as long as you're with TSI Biosciences, I can show you. And they have an office here in Abuja. I'm sure Glory will put the address for me somewhere if she's watching. If not, I will put it there, or you can call the numbers that will be put after the show in the conversation, so you can call them and have your DNA test or any other diagnosis you may need to do, and you believe you need someone to help you prove it. Do not live your life guessing and praying that a certain disease doesn't come to you. Some things are genetics, and when they come, sometimes prayers is not easy. You could have handled it before time by just seeing a doctor at the right time, or even before you have your children. That's what I always say. This is my new message to young people. Go do some investigations, find out some of the genetic diseases that may be prevalent in your bloodline, so you can prevent it moving forward and having healthier children and living a more fulfilled life. Thank you very much, Afis, for coming and making the show very interesting. I tell you,
Thank you
anybody
very
who
much.
watches this and doesn't have fun, that person must have a dry bone in them. Thank you very much and have a lovely afternoon.
And you too.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
So thank you very much. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Please like my videos and share, and have a lovely day.